Joining us on the How Did You podcast today is Simon Walsh, a university lecturer who's not only been in freelance commercial business as well as also being a university lecturer.
We always need to look back on our careers, and certainly, you're still a young buck, Taylor. Give yourself another 25 years or so, and you'll be sitting here like bald, like me, probably. I don't know, maybe you won't be, but maybe you will be. And you'd be going like, oh, actually, yeah, do you know what? There was that person at school, there was that teacher at school, or that university lecturer, or whatever, who inspired you and who gave you that drive and that self-confidence and that self-belief. And I can go all the way back to the age of 8. And I was taught by someone at junior school who taught me English and taught me drama. And also, obviously I was 8 to 11, so we weren't doing heavy duty Sunday Times, Insight Times style journalism, but he did like a current affairs thing. And I loved current affairs. I always loved the news. I loved News Round with John Craven as a kid. And he did this, there was kind of an optional thing. I think it was in lunchtimes or something. Rather than being outside playing football, because I was never very sporty, I'd go and spend an hour indoors with my English and drama teacher learning about, the Middle East or something like that. Kevin Coombe is his name. And Kevin Coombe, I should have met one. In fact, actually, I know that Kevin is in a care home now. And that's the last I heard of him. And that was a while back. Kevin may well have shuffled off his mortal coil by now. I don't know. But Kevin Coombe was my inspirational teacher. The first one I would name, who had that intersection for me. I ended up being a broadcast journalist, and that covers obviously current affairs. It obviously covers a capability with written English, and the drama side of it probably covers my ability to just stand up and talk and perform a script, because even though it's it's not a play, it's not a movie, it's not a TV show or a soap, but it's still a script and it still needs performing and it still needs doing well. It is a role in a way, being a broadcast journalist. I went through school doing all that kind of stuff, drama, English, current affairs, worked on the school newspaper, blah, 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 did work experience at radio stations, always loved the radio, and loved the radio even before Kevin Coombe came into my life. A little bit of a weird sideline, I lived in Africa as a kid, okay? I moved to Africa when I was 6, and I lived there until I was 10. And the only real connection that we had back to the UK was listening to the World Service on longwave on the radio. There was no British TV we could get. And, I'm talking about 1980, okay? We're long before the satellite revolution. So, the only thing that we as British people in West Africa in 1980 could get hold of that was like, and there are some people from our home nation talking and telling us stuff, was the radio. So, from the age of 6, I was like listening to the Pips and World Service and all of that kind of stuff, okay? That wasn't the Archers, by the way. That was the theme tune for the World Service. Very similar, but different. And so I grew up with the radio. So in a sense, the fact that I took a wrong turn out of school before finding my correct path is a little bit of a weird one for me. It's a total anomaly in my entire educational trajectory. I went to university first to do French and international management. Not a joint honours, not half of one and half of the other, 2 full degrees. One in French and one in international management. And I love the French, and I still love the French, not only the language, but the people in the country and all of that. But the international management bit, I soon realised that having not done maths or economics at A level was going to be a major hindrance for me on this course, because the marketing, advertising, promotion, I have an instinct for that, and I can do that. What I can't do is formulas on pages, and I was sat in lecture halls with people who were sitting next to me, scribbling it all down like it was English, and they could just read it, and I was like, I'm in the wrong course here. So needless to say, I dropped out of that course and I switched to journalism, and I have never looked back. Simple as that. So, you know, anybody who beats themselves up about having gone to university and started one thing and gone, oh, that's the wrong thing, I'm going to change course and do something different. Don't sweat the small stuff, okay? You're even if you regret the fact that you had to do that failed first year, you will look back and go, that was the best decision I ever made. And that's exactly how I feel about it, because like sort of, you know, I was doing something that utilized all of my natural talents. I had no natural talent for maths or economics. I can sell, but I can only really sell because of the gift of the gab, gobby bit. Okay,
you can swear.
Bullshit to Texans.
There we go.
Bullshit to Texans. Snow to the Icelanders. Sands to a Saudi Arabia, and so on. Okay, all of those possible national obvious things that you know, I love selling. I love promoting. I love telling people about stuff, and I always have done. And I think that comes through in journalism, and it comes through in drama, and it comes through if you sit down in a pub and have a beer with them. You know, it's kind of like sort of, does he ever stop telling a story about something? No, he doesn't, because that's what he does. So, you know, if you've been lucky enough to find that thing that you are A, good at, and B, love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I know that's cheesy, and it's oft repeated, and it's like, sort of, you know, it's a cliche, but it's absolutely true. If you find that thing that you can just like sort of, you know, I'm not saying do in your sleep, you know, if it's never a struggle at some point, then it's not worth it, because when things are going well and smoothly, life is easy. The times when you learn and you find out more about yourself is when the wheels come off a little bit, you know, and everybody's career, even the one they know they want to be on, the wheels come off at some point, you know. And the wheels have come off for me, even within my career, not badly enough for me to go, right, that's it, I'm going to go and be I'm going to go and live on an island somewhere and live as a hermit. Notwithstanding, you know, where I obviously am on my hermit-based island at the moment. Yeah, you know, I've had problematic points in my career. But, you know, I also got my degree in journalism. I didn't even get a good degree. I got a 2-2. I've got a high 2-2. I was spitting distance from a 2-1, but I got a 2-2. And everyone, people are always surprised when they hear that I've got a 2-2. They're like, really? You come across as at least a 2-1 chap, possibly a first style chap. I was never a first person. I was never the straight A student. You know, I got some A's. A's and B's. I used to get upset if I got a C. But, you know, I mean, most of my career successes, oh, look, as we were talking about before we started recording, I've had about 20 different jobs in my life. A lot of those were freelance, okay? It's not that I'm unemployable and people keep sacking me or anything. I've had about 20 jobs. And for those 20 jobs, I've probably done about 6 or 7 interviews maximum for about a third of them. The other ones, the rest, the 2/3, has been recommendations, and people have asked if they know somebody who can do X, Y, or Z, and they call you in and have a chat with you on the phone. Say, yeah, you sound all right. Is 150 quid a day all right? You go, yeah, sound lovely, fantastic. See you on Monday. You know, I've done very few job applications, which is ridiculous because I teach my students how to do job applications, how to write CVs, and I haven't had much call for them in my career so far. It's all been like sort of, oh, right, you know someone? Okay, great. Give them my number and tell them to give me a call. And, you know, that's happened to me so many times. Mostly in the world of journalism, I hasten to add. It probably doesn't work quite that simply in the world of academia, because they want to see things like, you know, annoying things like qualifications and things like that in the academic world. In the journalism, media production, radio production world, it's like, sort of, can they do the job? It's like, yep, they can. All right, fine, lovely. Let's see if they can. Oh yeah, they can. Right, all right, we'll keep them on.
You've mentioned that throughout school you had that one teacher that guided you through that pathway. Then you had a course change, sorry, at university. Did the job that you wanted to be as a child stay to what you wanted to be after you'd left uni?
Absolutely not, Taylor. I spent most of my young life up until the age of about 14 wanting to be a vet. Never actually was any good at any of the subjects that I would need in order to become a vet. And I simply wanted to become a vet because, big soft bastard moment, I love animals. Love animals. All of them. Every single little fluffy, scaly, slimy one of them. Even the crawly ones. The ones that skitter across the floor. I love them. I love them all. That's not to say that I wouldn't kill a wasp if it was hanging around my beer, all right? But, you know, I do have a few exceptions. The wasps are of the devil's party, as far as I'm concerned. And wasps are evil. Wasps, you know, the stinger on a wasp is actually for paralyzing baby caterpillars. That's what it's for. That's what the purpose of because that's what the main food of wasps is. So basically, if you're the kind of person that wants to go and kill the thing that's going to turn into a beautiful butterfly, I have no time for you. Okay. That's my only exception in the animal world. I will stroke and pet anything else. I mean, not alligators or crocodiles, but I still love them. I still love them. So I wanted to be a vet forever. But I have no real scientific capabilities. I was all right at biology, and that was mainly because I love the natural world, but I was shit at chemistry. I was excellent at physics, he says, blowing his own trumpet way too loudly, which is weird because I didn't do maths, and physics is maths. I like maths. I'm interested by maths. I'm just not very good at it. Well, actually, I say I'm not very good at it. I've got 2 A's in maths at GCSE and AS level, so I'm not rubbish at maths. I just chose A-level choices that took me down the artsy route because that's actually where my heart lies. Follow your heart, everyone. Don't do what your parents want you to do. Don't do what your school wants you to do. Do what you want to do, okay? Because then you won't sit back years later going like, oh, now I'm in this career that I did to please my mum or my dad or my school. You know, don't be that person. Be the person that's like, you know what? The reason I'm here is because I decided to be here. It's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it. I feel like I've gone completely off-piste and off the reservation now. Do you want to bring me back in? What else do I need to talk about? Am I still talking about my career? Am I still going, am I going to leave university soon? Anyway, I graduated and I left university. And within a fortnight, I was on air. Right? I mean, you know, I hate saying that now to your generation who struggle to find opportunities and openings in the media. There was a fortnight between me graduating and me being on air reading sports bulletins at a radio station. And you know, and look, I apologise for the brevity of that period of unemployment that I enjoyed, and the fact that I have never experienced that. Oh my God, I haven't got a job. What am I going to do? Well, actually, I have in 2006, 2007, and I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, straight in. Went to the radio, rang the radio station, rang. I was at Sheffield University, which is where I did both my French and management catastrophe and also my journalism degree, because Sheffield is a fantastic city. And it was the Britpop era. So, you know, you'd see Jarvis Cocker would be hanging around in Sheffield. It's amazing. It's like, oh, wow, this is super rock and roll. I love it. And Gatecrasher, the nightclub, launched in Sheffield. Well, it didn't launch in Sheffield. It was the glass houses in Stoke, in Hanley, was where Gatecrasher first started. But then they decided they wanted their own nightclub and they chose to move to Sheffield. And a purpose-built club called Republic was opened in Sheffield, which was the home of Gatecrasher. And we had Love to Be at the Music Factory, and we had NY Sushi, and I was promoting some infinitely less well-known nightclubs, mainly techno and drum and bass. Very, very much a clubby person. You know, I am definitely a child of the acid house generation. You know, no denying that at all. And that probably explains why I got a 2-2. A bit too much partying, not enough studying. But anyway, you know, look, then I asked for a job at a dance music radio station, and I had the credentials. I had a journalism degree, and I loved dance music and clubbing. So I was like a tick, tick, excellent, we'll have him. And literally, I rang up Kiss FM that had started and launched in Yorkshire. It launched in Yorkshire. Actually, I know the date. It was on Valentine's Day. Brilliant day to launch a radio station whose logo is a pair of kissy lips. Launched on Valentine's Day, 14th of February, in my final year at uni. So, you know, 3-4 months before my final year finished. And we were all listening to it because, you know, there was nothing else on the dial worth listening to. And suddenly we had a radio station that played, okay, mainly commercial, housey, garagey stuff during the day, but in the night time when the specialist music came on, you know, banging, mate, you know, dirty, lovely. And we were all listening to it, and I was like, what am I going to do with this journalism degree? And, you know, I said I've never had knockbacks. I was totally lying. I always thought I was going to write. I always thought once I was on this journalism course, I was going to be a writer, because I can, you know, I can talk well, but trust me, I can write. I always thought I was going to be a print journalist. And I wrote speculative letters to all of the local newspapers in and around Yorkshire. I wrote to the big boys. By the time I came out of university, I'd done work experience at the Times in London for a month. I'd done 3 days on the Midlands at Westminster, which was the sort of the Midlands-based political programme. Only 3 days, but, you know, still TV. And I'd done a week at the RMB radio in Birmingham. So while I did my journalism degree, I did print, I did TV, I did radio. I did all that work experience every year, okay? Easter holidays. That was what I did, okay? And, you know, folks, those of you that are at university, get work experience. Get work experience. Get it on the CV, okay? Having a degree is one thing. Actually having gone out there and spent some time in the actual working environment, however long, however short, probably more value than your degree. I will be honest, okay? And that's what an employer would say. It's like, oh, well, fantastic. They've got a first, but they've not taken any opportunity to go and actually do it. Well, that makes your first not worth the paper it's printed on. Your first and 1, 2, 3 pieces of relevant work experience, suddenly you look like a good gamble. I was listening to the radio, having written 50 letters to print organs, magazines and newspapers, hoping someone was going to bite. And I didn't even get a letter saying, thanks for your interest. Half. Just got silence. And that was depressing, but it wasn't for long, you know, because I rang up the request line, the line that they give out on the radio to ask for songs on the radio at KISS. And I rang it up. I got through to the studio and I'm like, hello, I'm actually not ringing to request a song, I'm ringing to request a job. And whoever was on air at the time, don't know who it was, probably Alex Pepper, maybe Jay Smith, I don't know. So, all right, well, this is the request line. So here's the number for the front desk. Speak to the receptionist. She's called Jan. She's lovely, and she'll be able to help you. Gave me the phone number, phone down, phone back up, and I rang Jan. And I spoke to Jan, and I said, hi, Jan, I've just graduated from Sheffield University with a journalism degree, and I'm really interested in coming to work for you lot. She goes, well, I'm the receptionist, mate, so I don't make that decision. But tell you what, let me take your name and your number, and when the boss comes back, I'll tell him you've rung. And I was like, okay, do you know when he's coming in? She goes, I'm expecting him about 1 o'clock. I was like, okay, well, could you let him know that I'm going to be available from 1 o'clock? And she's like, yeah, of course. I was like, lovely. Anyway, so I'm sitting at home in my flat in Sheffield. Literally got enough money saved to pay for 2 months. I need a job. Okay? Soon, bar worker's not going to cut this any longer because it wasn't an expensive flat, but it was a flat on my own place, my own front door. And I needed some money coming in pretty damn sharpish. So I paced up and down in my flat. Oh my God. And at 12 o'clock, an hour before I was expecting it, my phone rang. And a guy called Mike Gray, who gave me my first paid job in radio. And he said, that's Simon. And I said, yeah. He said, it's Mike Gray from Kiss in Leeds. And I was like, hi, Mike, how are you? He's like, I understand that you want a job. And I said, yes, I do. He goes, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. I said, well, look, Mike, basically, I've been at Sheffield University for 4 years, and I've just completed a degree in journalism. I've been listening to your radio station from the day it came on air. I love dance music. I've been clubbing since 1990. And it's now 1997, so I've got 7 years of clubbing under my belt by now. And I live the lifestyle. I know the lifestyle. I know who all the DJs are. I don't know them, but I know their names. I know who the producers are. I know what the big clubs are around the country. I've been to a lot of them. But I've got a degree in journalism, so really I'm not looking to be a presenter. I'm looking to be like sort of anything in the news desk, anything like that. And he's like, yeah, all right, okay, well, can you come up and see us? And I was like, yeah, of course I can, absolutely. He goes, tomorrow, can you? I was like, sure. He's like, what time can you be here? I said, well, should we say midday? Because then you can get your radio station moving in the morning, and I can have a leisurely get up on a breakfast and slow and then drive, and everything will be good for midday. How's that? He's like, lovely. So I came up midday, met him, handed over my CV, which he looked at for about 2 seconds, then stuck over there. Took me into a studio, said, there's a new script, you should record that for me, please. And I recorded a new script. And he was like, right, it was lovely. Simon, really nice to meet you. We'll let you know. Okay? Shook hands, off I went. Next morning, 10 o'clock, rang me up and goes, oh, would you like a job then? I was like, yeah, sure. So I'd rung him on a Monday, got up there on a Tuesday, been offered the job on a Wednesday, I started the next Monday. 30 quid a day. Shit money. All right? £150 a week, £600 a month. Ballpark. £600 a month. It's about £7,200 a year, that rate. So I did that for August, September, October, November, and December. And I got into debt further and further and further every month because the money I was earning pretty much was my rent. A little bit less, a little bit more that I was earning than my rent was. I think my rent was about 450, 475. So I had £125 a month to play with, which is not a lot when you're having to drive to Leeds every day from Sheffield. So I did that, and then Chrysalis Radio bought the company, the little company that Mike ran. And suddenly I was being employed by Chrysalis Radio, and then suddenly it was 12 grand. And I was like, all right, good, well, that's kind of like almost doubled my money overnight. Fantastic. So, salary, £1,000 a month, bang, thank you very much. And that's probably the last mentioning of money I'm going to make, because I just wanted to talk about the shift from being a freelancer, having frankly the piss taken out of you, fresh out of university, into something where you're being employed by a corporate. And then once you're on that ladder, you can start growing that quite nicely. Please, folks, never remember, if you're working for a corporate, the only way to increase your salary is to move company. I'll leave you with that. Don't get caught up in the loyalty thing. They'll take advantage of that, and they'll give you 1,000, 1,500 extra a year. You want to go from a job where you go for, I'm not making enough money, I need to earn another £6 grand a year for me to be happy. The only way you're going to do that is by moving company. Okay? So don't develop too much loyalty to individual company. is my advice, okay? Because the only loyalty that they have to you is that if you stay around, they can get you at a bargain price, okay? They prey on our insecurities. But, you know, every company does. Every company does. 4 years with Galaxy. It changed from Kiss to Galaxy, and it was still doing dance music. 4 years there, but I only did a year on the news desk. And actually, I found the whole news desk thing quite depressing because 2 weeks into my career, Princess Diana died in a car crash in the Paris tunnel. And I have to say, that whole national outpouring of grief seriously affected me because it was all I was talking about. You go home and this mantra would be going off in your head, and, you know, thinking and listening about all the people that are sort of sobbing on the radio, and, you know, the great and the good sobbing on the radio. You're like, wow, doing the news is really depressing, isn't it? And then I got offered the job of doing basically Galaxy Networks news beat. 10-minute program, pre-produced package, pre-recorded, scripted, presented a bit more than the news. Not a show, not a 4-hour radio show, but, you know, movies, music, travel, gaming, fun stuff, okay? The fun stuff, the good stuff, the stuff that makes us happy. So, yeah, absolutely took that opportunity straight away, and got to interview mostly music artists for 2 years. And, you know, in that time, I've interviewed 800 music artists, a few movie stars, but mainly music people. You know, if you name a music person from the 90s, I've probably interviewed them. Britney 3 times, All Saints 5 times, Spice Girls 3 times, Chemical Brothers, Underworld, Prodigy. Yeah, I've done them all. Anyone that was on the music scene, and particularly in the dance music scene, which was obviously massive, and was culture. There was only one culture. We had a monoculture in the 90s. It was dance music, and everyone was on it. Everyone. And if you weren't on it, you weren't anyone, literally. I know that sounds terrible because there are so many splintered scenes now. And maybe that's what life's always been a bit more like. Lots and lots of little tiny scenes making up youth culture. But for that period in the 90s, you know, I'd say 1989 to 1999, okay, that tail end of the 20th century, that last decade, there was like this unifying culture where everyone was on the same path and on the same direction. Like, sort of, you know, everyone was doing the same thing. We're going out clubbing, we're going to get on it, and happy days. And that was culture. There's people who are going to say to me, what are you talking about, Walsh? There was like Britpop and blah, blah. I was like, yeah, but like Britpop wasn't massive like rave culture was. Rave culture was the last hurrah of the 20th century, post-Thatcherism. It was a country coming out of utter dejection and misery and just having a bit of a good time. Very much the kind of thing, a very sort of fin de siècle, if I can refer back to my previous French experience. You see that happen at the end of a lot of centuries where there's this final bursting of emotion and partying and joy. You had it at the end of the 17th, at the end of the 18th, at the end of the 19th, at the end of the 20th centuries. Go and read your history books and see how they all behaved, okay? And, you know, in the same way as we're at the beginning of the century now, you know, the map of what's happened since the century began, and let's face it, been pretty rubbish, hasn't it? You know, 2001, 9/11, ever since then we've been at war. And then, you know, coronavirus, okay? It's been a pretty shitty start to proceedings, the 21st century. But if you go and look at the early decades of any century, you see the same thing. Life comes in cycles, Taylor goes in cycles, okay? You see the same things happening again and again, and they repeat and they come around. And some of those cycles are shorter and some of them are longer, but they are there. And if you go and dig around and look for them, you'll find them. Philosophy rant over. Worked for them for 4 years, ended up taking that show down to London to produce it in London, where I was working at Heart 106.2, one of the largest commercial radio stations in London, working with some much more famous people than I've ever worked with before. People like Kid Jensen, people like Pat Sharp, people like John O'Coleman, and so on. I wasn't, when I say working with them, I mean, worked in the same building. I saw them regularly, didn't produce them or anything. But, you know, we chatted, we said hello. It was all good fun. And then I kind of took a bit of a side road, still with the same company. We launched this online radio thing, a bit like Spotify, where you sign up and shoot. You had 3 arrows that you could shoot into 5 targets, and you could shoot 3 different targets, or you could fire all 3 arrows into 1 target. And the targets were musical genres. And then after you did that, it would generate a music mix specifically for you. Okay. And it would create a radio station programmed and playlisted for you. And there was presentation, but none of it was live. It was all pre-recorded and voice tracked. It was a great idea that absolutely needed broadband rollouts to have been completed, and broadband rollout unfortunately hadn't begun. So the only people that were listening to us were people at work with high-speed internet lines and people in universities that had high-speed internet lines. And that was not enough of a market to sustain us. So 6 months later, we all lost our jobs. And I'd left Chrysalis Radio to go to Chrysalis New Media. And everybody at Chrysalis New Media lost their jobs. And no one said, oh, would you like your old job back at over here? So suddenly you're sitting there wondering, what on earth is going to happen? And within 2 weeks, I had some freelance work. I referred to you previously, the changing company to get £6,000 more. That also happened. So it was mad. Okay, it's like, so I was like, oh my God, I've lost my job. Oh my God, I'm earning £6,000 more 2 weeks later. Fantastic. Happy days. Should we just carry on now? Lovely, lovely. Don't look back. Eyes on the road ahead. Let's keep going. It was freelance. Well, not freelance. It was a short-term contract. And I was producing multimedia content, okay, which in the old-fashioned world means I was writing copy, creating and editing photos, editing short bits of video and editing short bits of audio for other commercial clients. My commercial clients were Carlton Television, one of the London ITV group, and On Digital, which we all know now as Freeview. And I was making content for them that they were putting up on their Red Button, on their interactive service. The Red Button in 2001 was basically fancy teletext. Okay, it wasn't like, press this button to go and see that view or that sport or that, you know, it wasn't like it is for the Olympics or Wimbledon or Glastonbury like it is now, where it's basically multiple different camera angles and different camera locations and basically different programs coming down those buttons. It was just pretty teletext. You don't even know what teletext is. You do? Oh, okay, fine, lovely. It was way before your time, okay? But, you know, teletext used to excite my generation. Tell you what, before the internet, I lived before the internet. When I was born, the internet didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. So I did a load of freelancing for that company, UBC Media, Unique Entertainment News. It was all still entertainment-y stuff. So I was still doing lots of, you know, interviews with, I got to spend a day with the Charlatans at their recording studio up in Stoke. One of the best days of my life. I gave them beer, sat around with the Charlatans, Tim Burgess, everybody else, played pool, ping pong, and at the end of the day, did about an hour-long interview with them and then transcribed that, edited the audio down, took some photos of them, or was filming it at the same time. Bosh. One thing, 4 different outputs. Lovely. Happy days. And I did a bit more freelancing for them. And then I went and worked for On Digital, who'd been my client, because they were like, you're good, aren't you? I was like, yeah, of course I am. And they were like, oh, come and work for us then. I was like, fantastic, I will. And then I went to work for them and then they went bust. So I had a long history of going to work for companies that they went bust. Read into that what you will, Taylor. The freelancing came to an end with an old mate from Kiss and Galaxy saying, "Did you produce Carl Cox in Ibiza this summer?" And I was like, yes. Oh, well, okay. Twist my arm. So I produced Carl Cox for my closing summer 2002, literally July and August, 6 weeks. That was it. And I was flying out to Ibiza once a week, rigging up my DAT tape recording. DAT tape, okay? Do you know what DAT tape is? Right, okay, no, I didn't think you would. That was like an early digital format, but it was DAT, it was tape. It was digital tape, so it was all linear, okay? There was no like sort of save it down, save it as a file, copy, paste, drop, put in a Dropbox, download, open, bing, there it is, okay? So if I recorded 6 hours of Carl Cox doing a set in space, that meant when I got back to England, I had to sit there for 6 hours recording it into Adobe Audition.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. Genuinely. Horrific. It's like, I love Carl Cox, I love your DJing, but I've already listened to this once, and now I've got to listen to it again for 6 hours, because Carl Cox doesn't do hour-long sets. He comes in and it's like at the end of the evening, it's like, okay, Carl, can you finish now? Can you stop? Can you leave, Carl? Club's closed. That's Carl Cox. I mean, don't get me wrong, legend, okay? Absolute legend. And lovely, lovely, lovely bloke. Teddy bear. Looks scary, isn't at all. So I did that for a summer. And then I came straight off the back of that, and I got another call from someone who knows me. He says, "Would you produce Adil Ray's show at the BBC Asian Network in Birmingham?" I was like, "Yeah, all right." I went up and had a chat with them, and they went, "Yeah, all right, you can do it." So then I was at the BBC, and I did the BBC gig at the BBC Asian Network for 4 years. Late night show, 10 p.m. till 12:30, Monday to Friday, midnight 30. So basically, I didn't have a Friday night for 4 years, which was hard work for someone like me. And most of my friends used to go out on Friday nights because we were getting old by this point. We were kind of hitting our 30s. And by that point, people are getting married, people are having babies. And actually, most people at that age like to go out on Friday night because you're getting a bit old, your recovery isn't as good. So you go out on Friday night to party, so you've got Saturday and Sunday to get better. You go out on Saturday night, you risk being in bad shape on Monday morning. That's what happens, okay? Look forward to it. And I did that for 4 years. I did Adil Ray, but I also produced occasionally Sonia Deal for talk phone-in programs. I did Nikki Baby on news-led drive time programs. I did loads of arts and culture stuff. And I did a live events tour as well for the Asian Network, and took our tour for the Asian Network around probably about 8-10 locations around the country, summer 2005. And I managed that and recruited and trained all of the teams, did all the health and safety, and You know, it wasn't, you know, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't make a career out of it, but it was fun. It was fun. And I had a laugh. Anyway, then I decided I was going to leave the BBC because I had this great idea about this new thing called podcasting. I was going to go and leave the BBC and start a podcast production house. Okay, I was going to make podcast audio and podcast video. I thought this was the future, and of course, it was. And I left the BBC to start this company, and the recession hit. Bam, came in like a tsunami straight over me. Had loads of great interviews and meetings with great companies. We met with Love Film, okay? Love Film. You might know them better today as Netflix. And we met with Future Publishing down in Bristol, who, like, you know, publish loads of the main magazines, and we were talking about how to convert their magazine offers into video and audio podcast content delivered online. But of course, everybody was seeing it as marketing spend. They didn't see it as anything that could be monetized. And of course, what is the first casualty in a recession? Marketing spend. So everyone was like, love the idea, you're really good, you're convincing, but no. This is the only time in my life where I started to think, shit, where am I going to get money from? Anyway, thankfully, some of my friends at the BBC said, have you seen this job advert for this radio BTEC BTEC radio tutor at this college in Leicester? I went, no. And they sent me the link, and I looked, I was like, all right, that's better than no money. And I rang them up and I got that job. And so for a year at Gateway College, not at Gateway College, for a third-party provider to Gateway College, who actually, their main business was dance and ballet. So I was teaching 6 BTEC radio students in a dance studio with no computers, just trestle tables and a flip chart. Anyway, they got a BTEC in radio. While we did that, the company managed to raise some funds from the Heritage Lottery Fund, and we put together a 5-day broadcast, and that was what the money was for. And we got granted a short-term, very short RSL, restricted service license, and they took me along to see the radio facilities at this place called De Montfort University, where I met the program leader for radio production and technology, Rob Watson. And Rob saw me inspiring these 6 young people. There were also some other people included, some excluded students who'd been excluded from education because they were naughty. Yeah. So there was my 6 BTEC students and 4, about 10 of them in total, and they kept this radio station on for 5 days between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Okay, well, they played music, they had discussions, they invited people to text in, and we had great fun. And anyway, while through that process, Rob Watson, the program leader for radio program, said, "You know what you're doing, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing it for 10 years." He's like, "Okay, well, stay in touch, yeah, because, you know, might be some opening." I'm like, all right, that's interesting. Because obviously I thought I was going to be teaching BTEC radio at Gateway College next year. Turns out I wasn't, because they decided to interview for the role and check whether I had any teaching qualifications, and of course I didn't. PG, postgraduate certificate in education of any nature. I had my experience, darling, and that was it. And they were like, "Yeah, so we're not going to offer you the job." Oh, okay, well, your loss, but anyway, thank you very much for considering me, and good luck. And off I walked, going, bloody hell, what am I going to do now? Anyway, so what I was going to do now is I was going to go and open my emails and send an email to Rob Watson and say, you mentioned something back at Easter about like, whether there might be any opportunities to do some radio stuff with you at DMU. Is that still a thing? And anyway, you know, hop, skip and a jump, no real interviews, no real submission of CVs yet again. And I was taken on to teach the 1st year module for the radio production, you know. And he said, I'll tell you what, you'll probably be good enough to do the technology project for the final years as well. So my 1st year, bam, I'm straight in teaching a 1st year cohort radio and teaching a final year cohort or taking a final year supervision cohort from a technology project in their final year, their major piece of work in their final year. I'm like, oh, bloke's got confidence in me, obviously, so fantastic, off we go. And anyway, Taylor, look, at the end of the day, here I am now, 13 years down the track, having eventually become the program leader for radio production and technology when Rob moved on. And when that program ran out, and it did run out, they stopped recruiting for it because it wasn't recruiting well enough. It was good, but didn't hit that 20 minimum that a university likes to make a course sustainable. So the course got canned, and there was about 6 months where I was just a lecturer. And then I found out that Zoe Allman, who was the program leader for media production, she was moving on as well. And she came up to me and she said, "Would you be interested in leading media production?" And I was like, yeah, I would, as it happens. Seeing as that's where my radio stuff now lives, yes, absolutely I would. And so here I am, you know. And that's been the greatest stability of any job in my life. everything up until then, it's like I changed job every like 18 months, 2 years roughly. And now I've had one job at well, not one job, because obviously my career has grown and I've done more qualifications and blah, blah, blah. They put me through my postgraduate certificate for higher education. I've had loads of training. I'm doing my master's in education practice now. So, you know, DMU, very good at professional and organisational development, you know. Won't take that away from them at all. I've felt really supported there. And, you know, I am a naughty type. You know, I have the heart of a rebel. You know, I'm probably never going to be the boss, certainly not the big boss. But, you know, they know that I'm good and they've invested in me. And that's obviously always appreciated. And, you know, everything I've told you, Taylor, has all been love, okay? I haven't never done a job that I didn't love. Even when I was at university working in bars and restaurants, because I have had other jobs, obviously. You know, we're talking about my career here. We're not talking about things I did to bring money in when I was a young person. And, you know, that's a whole other story. But it's mainly bars, clubs, and restaurants. I've always loved what I do. If you don't love what you do, move on, do something else, okay? Because life is short and you get one of them and you blink out of university and you're 50 and you'll go, what the fuck? Swear to God, okay? Life moves. I'll give you a line from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss something. Now, that doesn't exactly say what I was saying about life. Life does move pretty fast, okay? But I think what Ferris Bueller was saying there was enjoy it, okay? If you're not enjoying what you're doing in life, change it up. Don't let yourself waste sitting somewhere going, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. If you hate it, leave it. I mean, don't leave it before you've found something else to go to, obviously, because that's crazy. But make your choices, okay? Run your luck. Believe in luck. Luck is real, okay? Another thing someone once said to me, luck is when desire meets opportunity. I think that's nice, that is, okay? If you've got the desire to do something, then do it and do what it needs to take to get there. And then just keep your eyes open for opportunities. And one of the best ways to keep your eyes open for opportunities is know a lot of people, network, stay in touch. Don't meet people once, go, hi, yeah, fine, yeah, bye. Keep their phone number. Send them a message once in a while. Facebook, okay, managed to get me reconnected with a whole load of people from my previous career before 2006. I'd been working for 9 years by that point. And, you know, there were people I was in touch with on text and who I'd phone occasionally, but, you know, you can't stay in touch with everybody. Facebook allowed me to stay in touch with everybody. You know, Facebook, people might not like it, okay? Great way of staying in touch with people, okay? Which, let's face it, is really what it's for. Or at least it was originally before they started trying to download all of our personalities.